Welcome into RedHawk Baseball Weekly, episode 2. Luke Poley and here with the head coach of the Miami Redhawks, Brian Smiley. Redhawks were at East Tennessee State last weekend, took one of three against ETSU, and last night fell to Wright State 11-10 at McKee Field. Redhawks will be back in action against another local Horizon League opponent coming up in the home opening weekend series here this weekend, taking on Northern Kentucky. Coach, just to start with your weekend series, you guys come away with a 12-2 run rule win in the first game of that doubleheader. I know you had to change some things around due to the weather at East Tennessee State, but looking at that weekend, you win one of three, but you competed for probably all but maybe one or two innings
Yeah.
all weekend long in that East Tennessee State game. So just what were your overall thoughts on the weekend?
Well, there were a lot of good and mixed with some not so good. We come out that the East Tennessee's Friday night starter. He's a really good young arm, young right-handed arm. They run the fastball up, has really good off speed, and he kind of had trouble with some command, and we capitalized on it. And we did a good job getting to one of their main bullpen guys, a left-hander that they bring out of the pen. And like you said, we put up 12 runs, and we were rolling pretty good. And that was a good win to open the series, especially after coming off, kind of a tougher loss again at Charleston Southern to close our South Carolina trip out. So that we started game one really really strong, and then we turn around game two, and it's a shortened game, a 7 inning game, and we lose it by 1 run, 2-1 game. And we had some chances there offensively. Both pitchers did a good job, um, and you just never know what to expect in the second game of a doubleheader. We had some chances to scratch some runs across them earlier in the game, and we missed some opportunities. And so kind of a Jekyll and Hyde weekend there at East Tennessee. And then you go into game three, and we get down 13-0 after two, which is tough to come back from. But our position guys did a good job battling back. They put seven runs up on the board to make it a game there in the middle innings, and then they kind of pulled away there a little bit later to seal the deal. But it was, I think we're 3-5. Our first 8 games have been kind of, we've put a full game together twice. We run ruled the Citadel, which is a quality opponent out of the SoCon, and I think it was like 15 or 16-1. We pitched the heck out of it, and we hit, and we defended. And then that first game at East Tennessee, we pitched the heck out of it, we defended, and we hit. The rest of the games were either hitting really well and not pitching it, or we're pitching really well and not hitting it. So we've got to learn to put a complete game together more often. I think that is the takeaway, from the first 8 games here so far.
Then shifting the focus to yesterday, an 11-10 loss to Wright State in a game that saw a lot of lead changes. You guys go down 4-0 after the first half inning. You score 4 in the bottom of the first to tie the game. Just kind of a wacky game that featured a lot of offense, featured a lot of home run hitting. But, as you get late in that game, you guys had a couple opportunities to score, like you said. And the 2-out hitting has been okay, but I think is you're in terms of just numbers purely average with 2 outs is a little bit lower than what the overall average is for your guys' team. Is that an area that you guys are focusing on?
Yeah, I mean, and timely hitting is going to be the key to really your offensive production. And hitting with runners in scoring position and 2 outs, that is usually the make or break of a win and loss there, especially in a high scoring game like that, a midweek game. I think the bigger issue that's probably the focal point is just the free bases. I think we were in above 10, that's for sure. Either walking some guys or hitting some guys, which we need to certainly do a better job of. But on the other side of that, the Wright State was up higher than we were, So that's why you saw the high scoring game. There were a lot of walks, there were a lot of hit by pitches, a lot of free bases given up on both sides. And they got the big hit there. We got their 9 hole. I think it was the seventh inning. Got a 2-out double, and then their leadoff guy ambushed a fastball and got it out of the park. And then, like you said, we had a chance there kind of late to do some things and execute situationally and miss some opportunities there. So we need to be a little bit better situationally, and then certainly on the basis, not making fundamental mistakes.
Defensively for you guys, David Novak was a 27 inning catcher for you guys last year, in part due to Tommy Harrison not being able to play all season due to injury. Novak has continued to carry the torch as we expected behind the plate, but just getting that many games under his belt, which obviously is not something that a ton of catchers get to do in terms of just playing, basically every game the entire year behind the plate.
Mm-hmm.
Threw out a couple runners yesterday. Defensively, he's looked really strong. He was good at the plate yesterday as well. What has that experience kind of done for him now as he's one of your upperclassmen leaders on a younger team now?
Yeah, David is a big, durable, physical catcher, so his body can handle that workload. A lot of times, if your catchers are younger and maybe not as physical, you worry about them breaking down, and then it affecting their offense as well. But David's big, he's physical, he works hard in the weight room, keep his body in shape. Um, so don't worry about him breaking down as much as maybe you would a younger, less physical type of guy. And excuse me, he's done a good job of kind of lengthening his arm out, long tossing, and strengthening his arm after his arm injury last year, which kind of limited a little bit in terms of his throwing. And he's doing a better job throwing. And I think we're going to continue to see some teams try to push the issue and try to run against us. So we're going to need to be able to adjust and defend that a little bit better. Like you said last night, he threw 2 guys out, and that's a combination of him and our pitchers giving him a chance with their times to the plate. Just being a working in tandem as a pitching staff and with David and the catchers to hold runners on. Yeah.
Wright State, a perennial Horizon League power, of course, picked to finish atop the league this year. You've got another Horizon League power coming up this weekend in Northern Kentucky. You actually won the league last year and went to the NCAA tournament. Get to schedule one of these kind of local games for a weekend series as opposed to a midweek to play your first weekend series at home. What are your thoughts, I guess, on the Norse?
Yeah, well, they're gonna be scrappy. Looks like they're trying to steal some bases, which is what we expected. I don't think they're gonna sit and wait for a 3-run home run. They're gonna try to push the issue and hit and run and bunt, do some things, which will be a good test because I think that's a little bit how the MAC is once we get into conference play. So we'll treat this weekend as a kind of a trial run for the Toledo the following weekend once we get into MAC play. But like you said, man, it's uh, Northern Kentucky is coming off one of their best years ever since they turned Division 1, and they were a regional opponent, so that they're used to winning, and they won that league last year. So they're going to be a quality opponent, and the season's still incredibly early. So there's adjustments being made on in every aspect of the game in every team across the country. I don't think there's probably maybe a handful of teams right now across the country that are totally satisfied with every aspect of baseball that they're playing. So our job as coaches is to make sure that we're really building on our strengths as a team and kind of working on some weaknesses to shore those up and not give the opponent just a glaring chink in our armor.
You mentioned it being a dry run for Toledo with MAC play as early as it is, right? I mean, you're only a few weeks into the season and you're already starting in conference play. Does that intensify, in your opinion, just from a coaching standpoint, how important these next 3 games are against Northern Kentucky to really get some of those, I don't want to say final adjustments because you'll be adjusting all year, right? But just trying to get your team in the best spot possible before, the games obviously start really mattering in conference play.
Yeah, they do, and they really do matter. The MAC is historically a one bid league, so your conference games are certainly magnified. When I say one bid, meaning you the RPI typically hasn't gone in the favor of a MAC team earning an at-large bid. So your your season kind of comes down to how you perform in conference. So you need to make sure that your team is ready to go once they get into conference play, because that is ultimately what's going to decide if you can finish first or second in the league and earn a bye, which gives you a distinct advantage in the conference tournament to being able to put yourselves in a position to win the conference tournament, getting that first round bye. And in order to do that, you need to finish first or second. So these conference games, every one of them matters. If you lose the first two, you can't get swept. If you win the first two, you need to figure out a way to win the third one, because every game is huge. And you play 30 of them. So you play probably a little bit more than you do in some other conferences, but it's a long conference season, and we need to make sure we're ready to go, and it doesn't take us 2 or 3 weeks to get going in conference play. So this coming weekend against Northern Kentucky is definitely a kind of a dry run to get prepared for Toledo, and every other conference team is probably approaching next week in the exact same way.
RedHawks in action this weekend against Northern Kentucky. Friday, 3 o'clock start. Saturday, Sunday at 1. Games can be found on Chatterbox Sports for TV broadcast radio here on RedHawk Radio, like always. Then 2 more midweeks, Wright State and Butler next week before conference play starts the following weekend at home against Toledo. Coach, best of luck this weekend. Appreciate you doing this. See you this weekend.
Yeah, you bet. See ya.